soul. It is well with my soul. It is well, it is well with my soul. And Lord, haste the day when the face shall be sight. The clouds be rolled back as a scroll. The trump shall resound, and the Lord shall descend. Even so, it is well with my soul. It is well with my soul. It is well, it is well with my soul. And now we're ready for the next group that would like to come. Would you stand where you are and just come up? Okay? All right. Just make your way on up to the platform. I hope she doesn't talk too long. It looks like she brought her lunch. No, I'm... Okay. I guess the same number as before, half a dozen. All right, we'll start with this lady right here first. Ladies
first. I'm Margie Lou, and Lillian asked me to say a few words about Stan. Robert Wee, who's Lillian Yep's brother, is a lawyer in Singapore. And I mention Singapore because in your memorial service program, the photo, shows that Stan Yep is wearing his favorite necktie, which was a special gift from the Singapore Legal Society. A few days ago, Robert sent an email to his sister, which I will read in part. Dearest Lillian, my family and I regret that we are not able to attend Stan's memorial service. I am so proud that Stan was my brother-in-law. He was always a fighter, sometimes for himself, but always for the underdog, someone who could be at a disadvantage due to injustice or discrimination. I remember our first meeting in 1979 when you were living on Yale Street in Los Angeles, Chinatown. At that time, Stan was in great need of a walker to go about his work. However, that inconvenience did not deter him from from doing his lawyering or going daily to court to do battle for his underprivileged clients. Stan was a great man with a generous heart. He will be sorely missed, but Stan will always remain in our hearts. We love, Robert.
Good afternoon. My name is Bonnie. I was a colleague of Stan's at State Compensation Insurance Fund for several years. When Stanley came, he was coming to that kind of work kind of late in life. But he was a stubborn man. He was a hardworking man. He wouldn't give up. So many of us worked with Stanley with great pleasure. We appreciated Stanley. We appreciated his humor. We appreciated the fact that he kept on going and he kept on fighting. I haven't met very many men like Stanley. He was a good man, a kind man, and an honest man. I was privileged also to meet Lillian, his wife, his helpmeet, the good woman in his life, and learn more about what she and Stanley had done in their community over the years. I was privileged to attend one of the wonderful banquets put on by the Chinese community several years ago. I was very impressed by their regard for Stanley and for his work. I want to say that I really enjoyed working with Stanley. I was privileged to learn to meet Lillian, to see her kindness and her faith, and to share some of the time I spent with Stanley. It was a lot of fun. Thank you, Stanley.
My name is Gail Lee, and Uncle Stan was my mom's little brother. And that's funny because their last visit, she was 93, and he probably was in his late 80s then. And it was so cute because they were in that same sibling relationship where she was the older sister and he was the younger brother. Uncle Stan we were so proud of his achievements. My mother's family grew up very poor in San Francisco, Chinatown, and they had a lot of children, a lot of mouths to feed, and my grandmother worked as a seamstress, making very little money in those days, and that was before the union entered the stage for the seamstress. Uncle Stan survived like that rough childhood, continued with his education, and achieved, amazing results. He is a example of what we can all do with our lives, of caring more than. It's a 24/7 type of job sometimes, and you end up working with your family, your friends, and achieving so much more than you can by yourself. One of the stories, I was trying to think back on what was maybe fun and sort of described Uncle Stan. He was always really patient with us kids, and we were young, and our first trip to Disneyland, we took the train down with my mom. My dad didn't come, and we stayed in Uncle Stan's bachelor pad, which was kind of crazy because it was, I think, near Watts or, some not a great area in LA. My brother had to sleep on the couch, and he spent the night rooting away for spare change. All he did was start pulling out paper stuffing from the couch because that's all Uncle Stan could afford. So it's one of those little family things that we recall always with, amazement and fun. As I had my family, we used to come down to LA and visit with Uncle Stan and Auntie Lillian, and they were just so welcoming and always so kind to our kids. Our kids were kind of, let's say, energetic, and so dinners with them were never dull, and we would go to these really nice Chinese restaurants, and there would be like rice and food everywhere. Because they were eating and having such a good time that Uncle Stan never said, a word other than, he was thrilled to see us and always welcoming to us, and I will always remember that. And just in closing, I just want to say that he made such an impact, not only on our lives, the family, but I know on the Chinatown folks, where the safety of people that he knew and didn't know was always in high regard and something that he worked passionately for. So a man of great integrity, of great loyalty to his family and friends.
Thank you. And this young lady wants to be last, so we'll go to this gentleman.
Good afternoon. I'm Alan Wong. I want to kind of share with you a little thought. I've known Stan for maybe over 60 years. When he first came in Los Angeles, and so did I, and we kind of grew up at the school, and then when he, as I always said to my family and friends, I judge people on what they do, not what they say. And to me, I just want to share the thought that Stan and I have never forgotten each other, and I really think he's a big gentleman, and he has done a lot for the community. And I see a lot of my friendly faces here that I didn't know that you knew Stan like as well as I did. And I want to say honor to Lillian for making him a nice guy, which I know him to be as such.
Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend. My name is Colin Lay. I'm originally from Los Angeles, and I used to have a restaurant in Chinatown, Los Angeles, called Grandview Garden. We served the best dim sum in town for 20 years. Mm-hmm. And I first met Stan basically by accident. Another gas house gang with David Bawu, another attorney, corporate attorney, myself, Tommy Chung, and another attorney. It was Michael Heen, ENG. We were running up and down the state of California to try to get the Asian community to register to vote. To register and to vote for political action, because we were sitting there paying our taxes, not getting a just share in the political arena, because money being doled out in Sacramento and Washington was not coming to the Asian community, not just the Chinese community, the Japanese, the Filipino, and Hawaiian community. So I was elected that time back in 1975 as Secretary Treasurer of the UAW Local 216 at Southgate, across from the GM plant. So through the association with David Bawu, the corporate attorney, Stanley came down and see me. Now, what he saw me was not because of a labor union or political action. He wanted somebody to help him with the crime problem in Chinatown. So I came, I lived in Chinatown at that time. Like I said, I had the business. So in the evening, I went to his office, and like George was saying, we talked about everything except law, or except how to entice the community, how to help the community. In Chinatown 40 years ago, not safe, My mother got robbed. She was 80 years old. My 6-year-old niece got robbed in broad daylight. My sister-in-law got robbed, and I got robbed. So therefore, you need Chinatown public safety. Now, you can't tell the people that. So when I go back to the GM plant Monday morning, the guys ask me, God damn it, you survived, Colin. You didn't get killed, right? So Stanley recruited me, and Phoebe E., another member of the CA's Chinese American Ascension Alliance, they recruited me for the association in Chinatown. So they drafted me, and first thing Stan put me on his committee, Chinatown Public Service. So what do you do with that? But Stanley being an attorney, he have everything all well organized. He think he let you talk, right? He's way ahead of you. It's like jockey, he's way ahead of you. So at that time, the LAPD was not hiring Asian police officers, discriminatory. You hear what I said? Discriminatory. They would not hire Chinese or Japanese or Filipino or Hawaiian officers. I said, bunch of bullcorn. We pay our taxes, we own representation. So that time was a Councilman Michael Wu. We went to his office. We went to the commissioner. We talked to the chief of police. That time was Daryl Gates. Now he sloughed us off, to the commission. Then we find out how the LAPD worked. So all the officers that at that time, 20-some years ago, some are retired now. They used to thank Stanley for the job at LAPD, because through his action, our volunteer action, through Jorson over there, and the rest of the people here, we helped, get them elected. Another thing is this, on the public safety, and when we organized that, and a big fundraiser that Brother Winston Wu was saying, we had over 700 people at the Golden Dragon. we found out is this way. Never have one copy of the seating arrangement. Always have 6 copies. We never did get the seating arrangement because that was assigned to Phoebe's office, right? They had a big squabble up there. The secretary quit, took everything with her. So what do you do then? So fortunately, China's being innovative that we are, okay. So all the family association, 40 tables sit on this section, and all people sit in this section. We finally got it situated. We had the mayor there, Bradley. We have the chief of police, he was there. See? So we have, all right, one thing I have to thank publicly, the First Chinese Baptist Church in Chinatown. Stanley drew the resource from the First Chinese Baptist Church in Chinatown. Give yourself a, applause, for the help of, establishing CPSA in Chinatown. So therefore, basically, Stanley himself, he's a great person. He never talked about anything, personal, but it's always for the community. So therefore, we established Chinatown Public Service. We established employment for the Asian officer for LAPD. Now they have to hire them. We have the last time I saw one there was a commander, Asian American commander in LAPD. That pay, the job's not, is not slouch, They pay over $200,000 a year, With a 4-year degrees, you have a degree in LAPD, you start $100,000 plus a year, for careers. After that, you advance, So I have to thank Stanley for that, the LAPD hiring, and also another thing. When we organized a CPSA, there was a robbery and a shooting in Chinatown. Officer Johnson was shot and killed, the first shot in the jewelry store. And Officer Archie Nagawa caught the second shot. If he wasn't killed, the bullet missed his trachea. So he was saved. But what Stanley done was this. We had a fundraiser. In those days, money was hard to get, right? Normally in the Asian community, they don't like authority, especially policemen, because policemen put you in jail, right? No, if a guy is good, you don't have to worry about it. But if a guy is not on the up and up, you got a problem. So we raised over $5,000, for the officer's widow, and they had a daughter. So in fact, 20 years later, she came to our dinner, CPSA. Thank you. Stanley, you're a great person. My condolences to Lydian and the Rita family. Yeah, Reverend, I'm long-winded.
Okay. And now this gentleman.
Yeah. Where'd I walk?
There you are, sir.
I had a couple of rules in my life. One of them was never follow Colin Lay. However, Stanley, because it is Stanley, I'm going to break that rule at my risk. Most of us know Stanley as a gentle, soft-spoken, very considerate gentleman. I'd like to share with you today the one time, I caught it as a short glimpse, one time only, and I never have seen it again, and most of you haven't either, because I think most of you did not share his life as a professional in the courtroom. I want to kind of tell you my experience looking at Stanley as a litigator. And I was in the role of the pseudo judge, and he was there as the arguer. Let me set the scene. This is in the early 80s. In order to bring public safety to Chinatown, Los Angeles Police Department expected that Chinatown would build a substation for them. This was going to be a near $1 million project. One of the key elements of this project would be an $800,000 loan, forgivable loan, so that we could finance the building of the station, which, by the way, incidentally was designed by Charlie Wong, who was one of the participants of this, Charles W. Wong, the architect. And one of the movers and shakers, and not yet mentioned, but he's sitting out there trying to hide, is Seigan Fu. But Seigan Fu is not part of this story. The story is this: in order to get that loan, at that time in Chinatown under the redevelopment district, you had to go through the project area committee, known in Chinatown as the Chinatown Community Advisory Committee, CCAC. And for whatever reasons that I have not figured out to this day, there was a vociferous opposition to the building of this police center. And these people were sitting on that council. Why am I in this role? It so happens that for that odd year, I was the chairman of that committee. So they had to come before us, the community, CPSA, and others, to argue for that loan. And of course, I have to share with you that the key person there was Stanley Yip, who came before us and, to my amazement, argued as I have never seen, persuaded as I have never seen, expressed his intelligence, his assertiveness. I could not help but admire that. But the main thing he did was talk and talk and talk. That's important. Then I'd have to shut him down, get others to participate because, you know, they were waiting their turn. And he'd come back and talk some more. It's a long story short, but it's a long story. I let him talk, and the opposition grew quieter. And I let him talk some more, and the opposition grew even quieter. And we let that go. I don't know whether it was dumb on my part as a chair not to terminate the meeting or end it, or whether perhaps it was some sort of inspired instinct. I really don't know. It was, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Colin, I think you were there, and George maybe, well after 10 p.m. that night. We started our meeting at 7:30. The longest meeting of the CCAC I think has ever been known to man. Finally, we arrived at the vote after Stanley made one more plea. And my goodness, it passed. Narrowly, but it passed. And then this loan would be okay, go to commission, go to city council, and of course the rest is history because you can see it on Hill Street today. He was a lion that night. I couldn't believe it. To this day, I still don't believe it, but somehow he was a lion. Showing you that tenacity, which you heard a little bit more about, the determination never to take no for an answer until it became a yes. And I think one more thing, and I think it's reflected in his belief. Passion, when he believed something was good, or when he believed you were good. The passion to carry it through. That's the Stan Yip I knew just for a glimpse of time, for 2.5 hours or 3 hours that night. And I never forgot it. Stanley, we're gonna miss you.
Good afternoon. That was amazing. Thank you. I want to really thank all of you for taking time out of your life to come this afternoon. Life is so busy, it really is, and it's pretty amazing. We've heard over a few people a lot of the gamut of my father's life, and a lot of you knew him even more the time than I've known him. But I remember in my 40s, well, no, when he was 40, he had me when he was about 40. I remember him staying up till like 4 a.m. to play gin rummy with me because I had pneumonia and I couldn't go to sleep. I couldn't lie down. And I still remember he would play up to 4 a.m. gin rummy with me, and then he went to work. 2 hours later, he was off to work. I remember that about my dad. I remember when he was in his 50s, I was in junior high at that time, high school I think it was, and I remember one time I looked up out of the window of my chem class and I saw him walking down the hall to talk to my chemistry teacher in high school. I'm like, what in the world is he doing here? He was concerned about the B that I was going to get in chemistry, so he came to talk to the teacher. He was very concerned for me. I remember when he was in his 60s. Now that was when he walked me down the aisle. Who would ever forget that? He gave me away. And we've had a wonderful time since then. And then in his 70s, he was very adventurous. I remember him coming to Guatemala. He had grandchildren now, and he came to visit us 3 times in Guatemala and Latin America. So that would cover about, and then his 80s. So that's when we came back. God was very gracious to bring me and my family back for like the last 3 years of my father's life, and I still remember he was over at Atherton by this time being taken care of, and it was just walking around in the hall with him or taking him out for a walk and him on his walker, and remember just praying with him and talking with him and telling him everything and anything because I knew he wouldn't remember it anyway. So that was a good time of fellowship with my father. So, you know, that's about his life, and it's gone. But it was very interesting because when he did pass away, on that day that he passed away, we were in the room there, and I was looking at his, the body that he left behind, which we all will leave behind one day, and really having that sense of peace and knowing, he's not there. I'm going to miss him. Yeah, there's no lie about that. But he's not in that body. And so we saw a little glimpse of his life here. You guys have shared some of it, but where he's at now is going to go on and on and on and on. And he's enjoying things and enjoying life, and my rope got tangled. But I think you get the idea. Eternity in heaven is where I'm going. He's in eternity now, and it's just amazing. My boss put it really succinctly. Jerry Lamb's here today. But he said it's kind of like saying goodbye to somebody at the airport, you're going to see them again. And I really feel and know in my heart of hearts that he's in heaven. So, if you ever have the time, if you haven't yet, please. I know my Father would love to spend eternity with you, as I would love to too. And he has, if you have time, please ask God to forgive you of your sins and ask Jesus into your heart. Thank you so much for your time. And just a small explanation of the refreshments that you're going to be breaking soon to have. You're going to wonder why are there trail mix bars everywhere. It's because my father really enjoyed them, and his last few years here at Atherton, anybody who came in the room to visit him, he's like, oh, take some, please, take some trail mix bars. It's a sweet and salty trail mix bars. It was his favorite. So that's why those are there. And then there's something called a croquembouche. I don't know how many of you know what that is. I didn't really know it was either. But please don't feel shy to take one off with your fingers. And as you enjoy it and savor it, remember my Father and where he is. And I hope to see you there too.
Thank you. What a wonderful way of concluding. Thank you very much. We'll ask Pastor Lee Hamby to come now as we bring our service to a close. And you can now take your place back in the audience.
Thank you so much. It's been nice to hear all of the wonderful thoughts about Stanley and to share together. We do want to invite you over to the Family Life Center.